Hello, folks. Welcome to the HireMyVA Team and Business Building Podcast, where we help you to reclaim your freedom through hiring and thriving with virtual assistants without breaking the bank. And that's your bank. I'm Dave Braun, and as usual, I'm here with Larry Broughton, who's my fantastic friend and mentor, buddy who's traveling through life with me, not to mention someone who's coached, oh my gosh, it's probably 10,000 entrepreneurs at this point. Help them become successful, Larry.
Lots.
So many ways. So what is up, my friend?
Hello, handsome Dave. Well, what's up? I don't know. Things are great. Things are feeling like they're heading in the right direction. It's good. It's good to see you again. I'm looking forward to seeing you this afternoon or this evening.
Yeah, this evening. That's right.
This evening with our little band of merry warriors.
Yeah, looking forward to it too. It's going to be the first time, it seems like a month, that we've all gotten together personally and physically.
Well, let me just tell people what we're talking about here, and I would encourage everyone to do this. I was talking to a friend last night about this, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, that sounds so awesome. You guys do it no matter what." So there are 4 of us friends that get together every week, rain or shine, whether we're all in town or not. If somebody's not in town, then they Zoom in. And we get together and have dinner at one of our houses, and we rotate back and forth. And it's a time to really just build relationships, checking on each other, how things are going at work. And then we just have kind of a little accountability and sharing session about what's going on in our world from our perspective. We don't beat each other up on it, and it builds bridges, it builds bonds, you know. And it's not a gripe session, it's not a gossip session like you hear a lot of people get into, you know, like in fact, that's not even tolerated, you know. If you don't have something like that, boy, it sure would be great for you to participate in it. Because once you do it, you think, what was life like when I didn't do it?
Yeah.
Right.
We're pretty lucky. We're pretty fortunate.
We sure are. So yes.
Okay.
Anyway, what are we talking about today, my friend?
Today, the question is, how does company culture shape employee motivation? All right. So let me give you the brief background on why we're doing this. So we may have talked in the previous episode a little bit about the EDGE conference that IVMF, the Institute for Veterans and Military Families, has put on. And, we're able to go to that every year and contribute in multiple ways. But we talk about it afterwards because it always makes a big impact on us. One of the keynotes there that was done was by Jeff Scheffelbein. He's the Chief Culture Officer. Now get that, Chief Culture Officer, interesting title, but he's called the Chief Culture Officer of the company is 5 Energy Advisor Services. So he did a great keynote, and his title was High Performing Company Culture. And so we thought, well, let's do an episode and we talk about that because it was a valuable keynote. And I think we have a lot of experience in this, and I think we can add a few things to what he was saying.
Yeah, because the truth is, and I mean truth with a capital T, RUTH, is that well-developed company cultures create positive changes across the entire organization, right? At the economic level, a well-developed culture brings really marked, sustainable increases in both productivity and performance. Psychologists have been looking at the role of individual quote unquote workers in the workplace for years. And they find over and over again, get ready before you gasp on this, that what they find is like the average, they call them employees. Okay. We call them team members. The average employee only contributes 20% of their potential to the organization. In an average organization, right? Which is not surprising if you look at the Gallup State of the American Workforce surveys that we talk about all the time, so I'm not going to reiterate that. But a culture that has team members that are deeply engaged is understandably much more productive than those that aren't.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's really important that leaders focus on this. How do I develop a corporate culture where people have an emotional, strong bond to it? Because it can improve financial performance, it improves team member retention, it improves employee morale, you have better teamwork, people take on more responsibility, they're more responsive to change, strong leadership grows organically within the organization, When people are feeling this way, they're more willing to extend themselves, and they've got better customer service. I mean,
So many
there's
advantages.
so many amazing things.
Yeah.
And you build a strong, attractive corporate culture. So I was glad to hear. I didn't attend the keynote. You did, Dave. I'm glad. I'm so thankful that you shared those notes with me that you took from it. And as you said, culture is one of the things we talk about and train on and go into organizations and help people with all the time. So let's dive into this.
Okay. Yeah. And a couple of things is, while culture is made up of sometimes sleeping pods or free food, ping pong tables, those become like more entitlements, and they can kind of do more harm than good sometimes when they're taken away, because eventually companies do that. I've experienced that.
And what Dave's talking about is like it kind of really blew up during the high tech era. We're going to start companies differently, right? And we're going to, like you said, sleeping pods, right? Or what else? I don't know, the beach balls in the office, and no shoes Wednesday. I don't know. I'm just throwing these out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead.
All right. Sorry to interrupt you. And one other, no, that's fine. This is our podcast. We interrupt each other. We
do whatever we want.
Exactly. Well, and the other point I want to make is, there's culture in all kinds of organizations. Every organization has a culture, and you can think about your family as an organization, or your church. Yeah. Like Larry, we have a certain culture within the four of us guys that get together every week. So how do you build that great culture within an organization, and everything where there's, two more people that are there together, more than once, a culture is going to be developed. And one of the things that we talk about in HireMyVA is, if you're gonna have a good culture, you better develop it yourself. If you don't take the bull by the horns and develop it, other people will for you, or it'll naturally happen, and it may not be the way that you want it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Just as an aside, we are recording this during a time during an employment crisis in this country, and some people are saying across the Western world, and some people are calling it the Great Resignation, right? And so it's very funny. I belong to some of these online hotel forums, and one of them I belong to, I'm not even going to say the name of it because it's so antithetical to what the name of it is, but it's a group of hospitality workers. Okay. And it's very interesting to see these people get on there and complain about the culture within which they're working, because just because you have a corporate culture doesn't mean it's a good one. It can be a toxic corporate culture, right? And it's very interesting because I can tell by reading these things which ones have strong leadership that are taking the bull by the horns and defining what the corporate culture is, and then holding people accountable to, hey, here's what we say our corporate culture is, and if you're not adhering to it, we're going to coach you up or coach you out, versus those that just sound like absolute pandemonium, where, what do they say? The wolves are, what is it? The foxes are running the hen house.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't want to be part of that organization. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And and I think when we talk about, you taking control, there's certain things that you dictate, but you got to be really careful. So, for example, Larry, where we stayed for the Edge conference, the hotel, I mean, they had, it just felt like there was some great training and a pretty cool culture, right? That was really cool. The way
can-do spirit.
Yeah. The way they interfaced with us, the way they helped us. I mean, it was just really great. On the other hand, I remember going into, and sometimes we do this still, going into a fast food restaurant, and you come in and they say, all of a sudden, they hear somebody come in and it's out of the corner of their mouth, "How you doing? Welcome." It's like, it's just a robot,
Yeah, well,
they're like, what the heck?
Well, there are two on the fast food side that get it right. That's notorious across the industry, and I'm in this industry, so I just see the surveys. Chick-fil-A and In-N-Out Burger. They've got the customer service side nailed for what it is that they do. Mm-hmm. There are those that don't. But I want to kind of hold up the other side of the coin on the customer service of the experience that we had with the airline versus the experience that we had with the hotel.
Oh, yeah.
right? Major airline, their brand ought to be, to me, premier, right?
Mhm.
With the name of their airline, they ought to be the best in the country.
Yeah.
And it was totally, to me anyway, dismissive, not helpful, not extending, little eye contact, just really bad.
Yeah.
It was bad. It was bad. I think it was bad. But you're right. Then when we got to the hotel, from the time we walked in the doors of that hotel, those team members were on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doing a great job.
So those are, a couple of quick examples, and, having the right culture makes a big difference to your clients. Like Larry talked about the ROI. Okay. So let's dive into some of the points, and we may end up making this a two-parter, but we'll see if we can get through
We
this.
can do it. We can do it.
Okay. So the number one thing that Jeff talked about was words matter.
Yeah.
Okay. And he had a really good example on it. He had a picture of a crane. You think about a crane in a building. Well, cranes can be used for either building up, building the structure up, or they can have a wrecking ball attached to them and tear it down.
For sure.
Right. So that was a nice picture for the words matter. So, and I know, Larry, you're a big proponent and have been for years where you talk about words matter.
Words have meaning, is what I say.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep, they do.
Yeah, they can cut you. There was a saying not a saying, but there was a PSA, a public service announcement, when they were trying to get folks to understand that abuse in the home doesn't just come from the physical abuse, right? That I remember it was a picture of a crying child, close up, tears coming down their face, and it said, "Words cut deep." Right? And so think about that in the workplace, right? Words can cut deep. Just like cheering helps, words can build people up.
That's right.
As well, right? And so this is why I think as we're putting people through the HireMyVA program and community, we talk to you folks about when you're putting together your vision statement and your mission statement, defining your core values, spend some time on really picking the right words.
Yeah.
Pick the right words, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's some good examples that Jeff had, I wrote down. And for us to use as individual, this is regardless of creating a corporate culture, a company culture, but as leaders of our families, et cetera, we need to have the right words, right? So one of the things that he said was, I get to versus I have to.
Right.
And that makes all the difference in our attitude.
Right.
Another thing that he said is, instead of I don't care, saying I trust you. So the context of that is, if you have a team member and they come to you with a couple of different options to do something, you say, well, I don't care what you do, just do you just pick, right? But you don't really not care. You're not using the right words there. A better phraseology, and I want to learn this more too, is I trust you to make the right decision. Right. So that's empowering words, right? So there was that. And then he also talked about, not using absolutes in our communication, like everyone.
I never do that.
Every time. Or I never. Or all the other kids get to do this. We use that to manipulate our parents growing up, right?
Right.
Well, if all the kids jumped off the bridge, would you do that too? Right. I know we're having a little bit of fun here, but don't use absolutes. Use real examples.
Yeah.
But those are some good phrases.
Yeah.
That he talked about.
That's right.
All right. So number 2 is he talked about communication. And what he was saying is in relative to hardest to easiest. So if the way he drew it is, if you draw a like a funnel, all right, where the wide parts at the top, and as you're envisioning this, the points at the bottom. Then he said, what is the easiest way to communicate to somebody, but maybe probably the least effective at the top, but the most effective and maybe the hardest at the bottom. All right. So up at the top is, you guessed it, is email. Right. And I would lump into some of that email and social media, communicating to people that way. It's like you're so distanced, there's no personal connection, right? So email is the easiest, but it's at least effective because there's no nuance or anything in it, right? And then the next was texting. Okay. And texting people, it is good for certain things, but you got to be careful because
Sure.
you can't have any kind of a meaningful conversation over text. You have to really be careful of when people text and understand them, because I get texts from people that say, do this, as opposed to saying what they're probably saying is, hey, Dave, how's it going? By the way, could you do this for me? Because it would be really important if you did it, as opposed to saying, well, just do this. All right.
Well, we know that communication, 80% of communication is nonverbal.
Yeah.
Right. And so I have found that if I'm trying to get a difficult subject or topic across in email, I take the time to take them on the journey of emotions that they might pick up on if they're watching facial or hand expressions. Okay. Yeah. But okay, I'll let you keep going, but then I want to circle back on this topic, but go ahead, keep going on communication.
Yeah. Okay. So then the next one is like having a phone call. Now, I would say there's something in between here that he didn't mention, is that like what I do with a lot of my clients, just to communicate things faster and easier for them, is I record videos of myself showing them something so that they can make a decision. Right. So that's not having an actual phone conversation, but it's in there, and that they get to hear the subtleties of my voice.
That's right.
If I like this or not, I get to demonstrate something. So that's a lot better than email or text. But the next on the level they talked about is having a phone conversation, picking up the phone, right? So picking up the phone, like you talked about, the nonverbal, you get more of the nonverbal communication, but you also have to remember that typically on a phone, from an engineering perspective, they limit, the bandwidth. You can't hear a lot of the intonation. All right. I remember when I was needing to do some cold calls and talking to people over the phone, one of the things that they would say is, you've got to be over the top enthusiastic so that it sounds that you're enthusiastic over the phone to the other person. Remember that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So phone is better, because then you can have back and forth, but you still lack some of that intonation. And then, of course, the next would be video, right? Doing a video call, a Zoom call, right? So we get a lot there. And then, of course, the best obviously is going to be in person, right?
Absolutely.
And so what he's talking about is, as a leader in an organization, move all the way down as much as you can to in person, if at all possible.
Yeah. This whole communication thing is just so important. I'm glad that you went through those for us. In today's day and age, we need to get much more intentional, because fewer and fewer face-to-face meetings are happening.
Yes.
And there's no reason why. There's virtually no reason why we can't do more video conferencing. It's so easy, and it's free, right? Whether it's FaceTime or Zoom or Skype or whatever it is, there are a lot of video platforms out there right now. But what I find, Dave, is that people will oftentimes use text or email because it's easy. It's the lazy way out. I got my message out. Okay, now it's someone else's turn.
It's off of my plate.
Right. But the problem is, you oftentimes have to follow up because the message wasn't communicated effectively, or somebody took it the wrong way. Invariably, I see it over and over again. You spend more time doing that versus if you just would have picked up the phone or done a Zoom call or a video call first.
Right.
Just do it. Just get it done.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just do it.
Just do it.
Be Nike.
Yes.
Okay. So then number 3, he talked about rules of engagement.
Okay. This ought to be good.
Yeah. And so the example that he used when he says rules of engaging with people and communicating, right? So what he said, and this is, I think it could be important, is why do you need to send an email before or after your normal working hours?
Because it's easier for me.
it's easier for me. It gets it off my plate and onto yours, right? So, but pretty soon that's going to start sending the message to other people. So Larry, when you get an email from somebody, then that wants your response, you're like, you want to respond, right? You want to get it off of your plate. So he's saying that if you're going to send emails before or after working hours, put a delay on it so that it doesn't even go out until normal working hours, because you don't want your organization to to be working outside of the normal hours unless it's really important and emergency. If you're doing this all the time, it's sending the message that you need to be working 24/7.
Yeah. Now, obviously, if there are important or urgent messages that need to get out there and you've got a salaried team member or a team member who is working after hours, like I'm in a business where it's 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
All right. And so we better have our properties manned or staffed 24 hours a day. It's appropriate to send those. But if I'm, sending out a really simple email, it's like something that's trivial, there's no sense of priority at 2:00 in the morning, and pissed off because they haven't responded by 6 in the morning, I'm wackadoo. Okay.
Yeah.
That's just bad. But when you say set delay, like in mine on Google, I think it's called the boomerang extension. I think that you put on if you're using Gmail, where you can actually schedule the email.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Which I think is a lot better.
Yeah, that's good. I had the Apple Mac client, and I bought Mail Butler, which will do the same.
Yeah, there you go.
And I know I need to get better and better at doing it, especially with clients. If you, as a business owner, if you're communicating with clients at all those odd hours, well, they may be communicating with you, and then pretty soon they're going to be expecting you to communicate at those crazy hours, and you don't want to set that. Nope. So remember, we're talking about culture, right? What do you want as the norm within the culture of your company?
That's right.
So it's easy to delay delivery. Okay. Yes. Number 4 is to be transparent and be appropriately transparent. And we go ahead, Larry.
I was going to say, that's the key word here, appropriately transparent. It just takes some discernment. You don't walk into the first client meeting you ever had and start talking about, your divorce, your alcohol dependency, because your sponsor just said, you need to be more vulnerable and transparent with people. No, you need to be appropriately transparent.
Yeah. We had an episode 48 of our podcast you can go back to, right?
Yeah.
Where we talked about how vulnerable should I be as a leader.
Yeah.
Go into that in a lot of details. He did have a couple of points. One was one of the ways you can be transparent to a certain extent is, your calendar. I mean, letting people see what you're doing and where you're going to be as a leader. I mean, I do that. But he also talked about, of course, when appropriate, if you're having a meeting, like a performance review with somebody, then you want to maybe block that out from people seeing it. Mm-hmm. But, I don't mind having my team look at where I'm going or what I'm doing on my calendar. And so that's a good level of transparency.
Yeah.
But then the other thing he said that was really interesting, Larry, is that have good quality audio and video when you're doing your Zoom calls with people.
Yeah.
Because, we talked about the subtleties of the audio and the video, having a good background or having a good quality mic or something decent so that they can hear you.
Yeah. I think that what we've heard over time is that the audio is even more important than the video. You want to have good video, but you want to have great audio.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Which means lighting, make sure that you're not silhouetted in the background with, light behind you, silly things, not silly, but I mean, important, small things.
Yeah, they are. Okay. So then the 5th one is he called shared experiences. And he defined those as where you have to have been there to understand what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is that you would take your team on a team building or do something with them where you have a good time, and people who didn't participate would be like, oh man, I wish I could have been there. And then somebody else said, yeah, you had to be there to understand what happened.
Yeah. Well, we all know that, right? That when you have shared experiences in life, then it builds bridges with each other. That's and right. You oftentimes build compassion for each other, which is a nice attribute to have in the workplace. from
Yeah.
time to time. And when you actually know someone and you've seen them outside of the work environment, you're more likely to offer grace and encouragement to them as well, right? Because you start to see people as humans and not just as cogs in the wheel like you are.
That's right.
Right. And that's what community and brotherhood and sisterhood is all about. Right. And I think those are important ingredients to having a strong corporate culture.
Yeah, and he gave a couple of examples, and one thing's, Larry, that we need to do is we need to record an episode on the different ways as a virtual team you can create different experiences.
There you go. Yeah,
because it's a little bit harder. It is
for sure. Yeah.
But I can remember just some of the, and I think what you can do is you could try to find and try to find the fun in the mundane. And like I remember a couple of travel experiences in my corporate world. Went with some guys. Oh my gosh, one of the guys, he just I laugh about it to this day. After he went through the TSA screening, he was looking around for his boarding pass. At the time, you had to have your boarding pass to get through. He was looking around for it. He's like, where did it go? Everybody's looking for it. It just disappeared.
Yeah.
Just crazy things like that. It's fun.
Yeah.
So those are five things that he talked about, and it was good. He talked about words matter, communication. Number 2 is communication. Number 3 is rules of engagement. Number 4, be appropriately transparent. Number 5 is have shared experiences. And we do talk a lot about in our course about how to create your culture.
That's right. Yeah. It's so important to, if you are listening to this on a podcasting platform or watching this on YouTube, then yes, join the community, go through the course, either our Victory Masterclass or the HireMyVA. We talk about culture and vision and core values for organizations all the time. It's so important because the true cost of a bad hire can sink an organization, right? Yes. And it's the team members that make up your corporate culture. You define what it's going to be, right? But then you have to have team members on board. And so if you've got a crappy, let's say you got a toxic culture or one that's just not attracting the right people.
Right.
If you get an entry-level team member, the cost of that bad hire to replace them is about 20 to 50% of what their annual salary is. A mid-level person, according to some of these not prognosticators, these people who actually analyze business metrics, for a mid-level team member, it's up to 150 times or 150% of what their annual salary is. For an executive, it's up to 213% to replace them. Right? These are real numbers. Okay. And so it's just really important that you try to look at these decisions as there's a measurable outcome.
Yes.
To virtually every decision that you make. How do I convert this into dollars or into percentages? Right. And because the reason I'm sharing this, I want to spend a little bit of time on this, Dave, is that some of the grumpiest, most crotchety clients I've ever had have been the most miserly. They want every dime and nickel out of this thing. But so these tend to be the clients that grind people down and micromanage and sharpshoot every decision, and they can't figure out why are people always leaving.
Yeah.
So when you can get them to open their eyes and say, if you would just let people do their job, if you would change the culture here a little bit and stop being so miserly down here, you will make more money because you don't have the turnover. Because they've oftentimes found is that when I say surveys have shown this to be true, that toxic cultures also have very high levels of pilfering that goes on. People people steal from you. If there's no emotional connection to you. If they don't like you as a leader or as an owner, they're going to steal from you.
Yeah. They're
going to be less productive. Remember, only 20% of the people. People are only giving you 20% of their potential. Right.
Yeah.
So, culture is so important. I'm so glad that we talked about this one, but we do go into this in great detail in both the Victory Masterclass and in the HireMyVA. So I'd encourage you, join the community, start talking to people.
Yeah, ask us questions about it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We give you, more top tips and things,
Yeah. There you
and
go.
address specific things that you may have.
Yeah. There you go. Good.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody
Bueno.
for joining us. And
Yes.
remember, building a team is the way to reclaim your freedom. And we're here to help you with our course and community. I keep inventing new words here.
Words have meaning, Dave.
I know. With our course and community.
I like it.
All right. And our white glove service where we find a rock star VA for you. So 3 things we'd love for you to do right now, and we'd really appreciate it. Number 1, subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already done so using your smartphone. And then, of course, on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and click on the little bell next to it to get the reminders. Number 2, give us a rating. Obviously, we'd love 5-star, but that's okay. Rate us however you want. But leave a comment, a question, anything below this video on YouTube. So it helps us get the word out. And then number 3, go to HireMyVA.com for more information on the course and community and our white glove service. We'd love to have you join us on our Q&A calls to help you out, because with our course and community, without experience, you'll learn how to prepare for, hire, and thrive with virtual assistants. We love helping folks. We'd love to help you too. So go to HireMyVA.com for more information.
Yep. And we're going to skip over my mini homily or sermon. This week, I'm going to go right to the goods. God bless you. God keep you. God hold you. All right, my friends, go do something significant today. Go get them. We'll see you next time.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.